Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik is the debut album of American hip-hop duo OutKast, released on April 26, 1994, by LaFace Records. After befriending each other in 1992, rappers André Copyright 3000 and Big Boi pursued recording music as a duo and worked with production team Organized Noize, which led to their signing to LaFace. The album was produced by the team and recorded at the Dungeon, D.A.R.P Studios, Purple Dragon, Bosstown, and Doppler Studios in Atlanta. A Southern hip-hop album, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik features live instrumentation in its hip-hop production and musical elements from funk and soul genres. Wanting to make a statement about urban life as an African American in the South, OutKast wrote and recorded the album as teenagers and addressed coming-of-age topics with the album's songs. They also incorporated repetitive hooks and Southern slang in their lyrics. The album peaked at number 20 on the Billboard 200, on which it charted for 26 weeks, and was eventually certified platinum in the United States. It was promoted with 3 singles, including Players Ball, which helped create buzz for the album. Upon its release, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik received positive reviews from music critics and helped distinguish Southern hip-hop as a credible hip-hop scene, amid East Coast and West Coast hip-hop's market dominance. The album has since been viewed by writers as an important release in both hip-hop and Atlanta's music scene. Background: André Copyright 3000 and Big Boi met in 1992 at the Lenox Square shopping mall when they were both 16 years old. The two lived in the East Point section of Atlanta and attended Tri-Cities High School. During school, they participated in rap battles in the cafeteria. André Copyright 3000 dropped out of high school at age 17 and worked a series of jobs before he and Big Boi formed a group called 2 Shades Deep. He returned to obtain his GED at a night school following the release of Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik. They briefly dabbled in street hustling to save up for recording money. The duo also spent time at their friend Rico Wade's basement recording studio, known as The Dungeon, with Wade's production team Organized Noize and future members of hip-hop group Goody Mob. OutKast recorded demos at the studio, and Organized Noize member Ray Murray helped Big Boi, whose strength lay in songwriting, develop his rapping skills. After several local productions, the team was hired by LaFace Records to produce remixes to songs from TLC's 1992 album Ooh On. On the TLC tip, the team had André Copyright 3000 and Big Boi rap over them, which led to a record deal from LaFace for both Organized Noize and OutKast. The commercial success of Arrested Development's 1992 alternative hip-hop single Tennessee also encouraged LaFace to sign OutKast, the label's first hip-hop act. Recording: after receiving a $15,000 advance from LaFace in 1993, OutKast started recording the album at the Dungeon. The studio featured mostly second-hand recording equipment. Recording sessions also took place at Bosstown, Dallas Austin's D.A.R.P Studios, Doppler Studios, and Purple Dragon in Atlanta. Located in Midtown Atlanta, Bosstown developed a sentimental value for OutKast, who later bought the studio in 1999 and renamed it Stankonia after their 4th studio album. Throughout the album's recording, the duo refined their artistry and drew on ideas from funk, contemporary R&B, and soul music. André Copyright 3000 also smoked marijuana during the sessions. They recorded over 30 songs for the album. Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik was produced entirely by Organized Noize, which was made up of Rico Wade, Ray Murray, and Sleepy Brown. Production team Organized Noize utilized live instrumentation on the album, emphasizing musical instruments, including bass, keyboards, guitar, and organ, over conventional hip-hop techniques such as jing and sampling. They viewed that the feel of live instruments made the music sound more authentic and immediate. With their production, the team sought an organic, celebratory, down-home vibe. As Brown later recalled, "We wanted Atlanta brothers to be proud of where they were from." Brown also sung vocals for several tracks. Along with Organized Noize, other members of the Dungeon family worked on the album, including Goody Mob, Mr. DJ, Deborah Killings, and Society of Soul. The album was mixed at Sound on Sound in New York City, Bosstown, D.A.R.P Studios, Tree Sound, and Studio La Coco in Atlanta. Music and lyrics: a Southern hip-hop album, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik incorporates analog elements such as Southern-styled guitar licks, languid soul melodies, and mellow 1970s funk grooves. It also features digital hip-hop production elements such as programmed snare beats, booty bass elements, including roll and trail 808 clave rhythms, and old-school hip-hop elements, including EMU-SP 1200-style drums and turntable scratches. Music writers characterize the album's music and beats as clanky and mechanical. Ronnie Sarrig of Rolling Stone comments that the music shows clear depths to East Coast bows like the native tongues and a West Coast level of attention to live instruments and smooth, irresistible melodies. In Oliver Wang's classic material, music writer Tony Green delineates the album's release at the tail end of a second hip-hop golden age, a 2-year period that spawned Wu-Tang's Enter the Wu-Tang, Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, De La Soul's Balloon Mind State, Nas's Illmatic, and A Tribe Called Quest's Midnight Marauders, and comments that like many albums released during that period, Southern Playalistic alluded to its roots while clearing the way for a new direction that used the peach cobbler soul funk of the Organized Noize production crew as a starting point. With the album, OutKast wanted to make a statement about urban life as an African American in the South, particularly Atlanta. Written when they were teenagers, much of the album addresses coming-of-age topics, and as themes of self-empowerment and reflections on life in the New South. Encyclopedia of Popular Music editor Colin Larkin writes that the album comprises tales of the streets of their local East Point and Decatur neighborhoods. The album's 6 tracks illustrate Southern life. The lyrics incorporate tongue twisters, triplet rhyme schemes, repetitive vocal hooks, Southern slang, such as the recurring phrase "ain't no thang but a chicken wing" repeated throughout "ain't no thang." The duo also intersperse their lyrics with references to classic cars, marijuana use, pimps, and players, which Big Boi defines as somebody who can take care of their business in the game of life. His flow is frenetic and has a rapid delivery, while André copyright 3000 raps in a more relaxed cadence, with staccato rhymes, and occasionally sings on the album. Writer Martin C. Strong views that both rappers' lyrical panache on the album has an ebb and flow similar to Kool Keith and Del the Funky Homosapien. The song Call of Dar discusses the temptation to drop out of school, while Get Up, Get Out encourages teenagers to follow their passions, be productive, and stop using drugs. The latter is an intertextual track that mixes themes of consciousness and political awareness with images of violence, sex, drugs, and gangster culture. It features guest rapper CeeLo Green exploring perspectives of both man-child and maternal figure. Funky Ride has no rappers and is instead sung by R&B group Society of Soul, a side project of Organized Noize. It has an extended guitar solo and musical similarities to Funkadelic and Bootsy Collins. Crumbling Ebb explores themes of hedonism and addresses black-on-black violence and the negative effect it has on African American culture. There's only so much time left in this crazy world / I'm just crumbling ebb / niggas killing niggers, they don't understand, I'm just crumbling ebb. Singles. The album's lead single, Players Ball, was released on November 19, 1993, originally intended as a Christmas release. It featured the sound of sleigh bells in its original mix, but it was removed once the single began receiving more airplay. The single received its highest exposure in February 1994 with heavy airplay and promotion, including a music video directed by Sean Puffy Combs. Combs had received a copy of the single from LaFace founder L.A. Reid and invited OutKast to New York to perform as an opening act for the Notorious B.I.G. By March, the single has sold 500,000 copies and risen to number 1 on the Billboard Hot Rap Singles, topping the chart for 6 weeks. The single's popularity among young black college students during Freaknik increased its sales and helped it break into the top 40, a rare achievement for a hip-hop song at the time. Players Ball spent 20 weeks and peaked at number 37 on the Billboard Hot 100. On May 12, 1994, It was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America in the United States. The single helped create buzz for the album. Neither of the album's next two singles performed as well. The title track was released in July, and it reached number 74 on the Billboard Hot 100 in August. Its music video was directed by F. Gary Gray. Get Up, Get Out was released in October. It only charted on the Billboard Hot R&B singles, peaking at number 59. Release and reception: Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik was released by LaFace Records on April 26, 1994. It peaked at number 20 on the US Billboard 200 on May 14. The album ultimately spent 26 weeks on the chart. It also reached number 3 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums, remaining on the chart for 50 weeks. By June, the album had sold 500,000 copies. The album's sales increased after OutKast's appearance at the 1995 Source Awards in January. On April 5, 1995, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik was certified platinum by the RIAA, for shipments of 1 million copies in the U.S. By August, it had sold 715,000 copies, according to Nielsen SoundScan. The album was reissued by LaFace in September 1998. Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik was well received by contemporary music critics. James Bernard of Entertainment Weekly preferred the album's Southern hip-hop over Arrested Development's suspiciously peppy, idealized version of Down Home, and stated, "It's about time someone told today's weed-obsessed youth to get up, get out and get something. Don't spend all your time trying to get high." Dennis Hunter of the Los Angeles Times cited Get Up, Get Out as the album's highlight and commended the duo's sauntering, hardcore tales of the hood, writing that they bristle with clever humor and sharp insights rather than rage. Rob Marriott of The Source complimented the duo's organic P-Funk influence and praised their lyrics' honesty, commenting that while their rhyme style may swing a little too close to Hierro for my comfort, what really makes this album so listenable is that truthfulness reigns. However, Robert Christgau gave the album a D.A.R.P rating in his Consumer Guide for the Village Voice. Christgau remarked on OutKast's early albums in a later Consumer Guide article, stating if Dre and Big Boi were addressing real-life situations on Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik or Atlians, they were drawling too unreconstructedly for any Yankee to tell. In a retrospective review of the album, Steve John of Rap Reviews called it a stellar debut album, but noted some musical flaws, including the monotonous bassline and chorus of D.A.R.P., the out-of-place funky ride, and the album's siggy tracks. Music journalist Peter Shapiro found its production rich, deep and detailed, but never as seductive or crowd-pleasing as Dr. Dre's, and commended the album as a melancholy depiction of the game that never shied away from its consequences. Although he found occasional dull and mediocre spots, AllMusic editor Stanton Swihart called the album an extremely strong showing, and praised the duo's inventive sense of rhyme flow, and mixture of lyrical acuity, goofball humor, southern drawl, funky timing, and legitimate offbeat personalities. Aftermath: despite its success, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik had some detractors, including hip-hop tastemakers who were unaccustomed to the album's style. At the 1995 Source Awards, OutKast won in the Best Newcomer category, but were booed upon taking the stage and delivering their acceptance speech. Big Boi managed to deliver his shout-outs, while André Copyright 3000 was nervous and only said, "The South got something to say." The latter recalled how the album was received by some listeners. "People thought that the South basically only had bass music. At first people were looking at us like I don't know." Hip-hop magnate Russell Simmons reacted negatively to the album at the time, but later expressed regret and said of the album in retrospect, "At the time, I didn't understand their music. It sounds so different from what I was used to that I foolishly claim that they weren't hip-hop. The same way people didn't understand Sucker MCS a decade earlier, I didn't understand that instead of operating outside of hip-hop, OutKast was actually expanding hip-hop. They were offering one of the most honest expressions, and expression so honest that it went completely over my head at first." After the album was certified platinum, LaFace Records gave OutKast more creative control and advanced money for their 1996 follow-up album Etlians. After acquiring their own recording studio, the duo immediately started working on new material and assimilated themselves with music recording and studio equipment, as they sought to become more ambitious artists and less dependent on other producers. The two also became more accustomed to playing live, particularly Big Boi, and André. Copyright 3000 significantly changed his lifestyle, as he adopted a more eccentric fashion sense, became a vegetarian, and stopped smoking marijuana. The album's success also opened up more opportunities for Organized Noize, who subsequently worked on TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool. The Organized Noize produced hit Waterfalls became a massive success and earned the production team enough clout with LaFace to endorse Goody Mob to the label. Organized Noize produced Goody Mob's acclaimed 1995 debut Soul Food and continued their crossover into R&B production, including work on Curtis Mayfield's 1997 album New World Order. Legacy and influence. Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik was a seminal album for Southern hip-hop. During the early 1990s, the scene was largely discredited by the rest of the hip-hop community as misogynistic and inferior to other scenes, particularly East Coast and West Coast hip-hop. Those scenes dominated the hip-hop market, and acts from other regional scenes were often produced by either East Coast or West Coast producers. The album offered an artistically credible alternative, both musically and lyrically, to those regional scenes and was produced by an Atlanta-based production team. Music journalist T. Hassan Johnson notes OutKast's first submission to the music industry as significant for how they broke from the binary production options split by California and New York artists, viewing that their decision to boast their region and a native production team signaled a break from the conventional split between East and West hip-hop aesthetics and openly demonstrated that the South could produce street-certified, quality music. Nicole Hodges-Persley cites its release as a critical moment in hip-hop and writes that it marked a break in coastal hip-hop sound. The album presaged hip-hop's Dirty South aesthetic, which later achieved mainstream recognition. Its smooth musical style, drawing on soul and funk musical traditions, and the duo's clever lyrics helped define Southern hip-hop sound, which influenced acts like Goody Mob, Joey, and Bubba Sparxxx. In the new Rolling Stone album guide, Rolling Stone journalist Roni Sarek writes that the album marked a coming out for a region that would dominate hip-hop by the decade's end, commenting that, with it, OutKast helped define a new stream of hip-hop that would rejuvenate the music in the late 90s and early 2000s. Alma Six Stanton Swihart comments that no one sounded like OutKast in 1994, and that the album showcased Organized Noize as it began forging one of the most distinctive production sounds in popular music in the 90s. Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik was also a significant release during the burgeoning Atlanta music scene. The scene started as a black music revival in Atlanta during the late 1980s, and developed with the success of LaFace Records and the national attention received by Atlanta-based recording artists and producers such as Tony Braxton, Chris Cross, Jermaine Dupri, and Babyface. The album offered realistic depictions of the city and veered from the Afrocentric themes of Arrested Development and Dupri's mainstream stylings. It was named the third best album of 1994 in Ego Tribe Euro's list of hip-hop's 25 greatest albums by year 1980 98. Vibe included it as one of the 150 essential albums of the Vibe era. The magazine also included the album on their 2004 list of 51 essential albums that represent a generation, a sound, and in many cases, a movement, writing that, OutKast determined the South had something to say, and after emerging from the Dungeon Production Lab, they said it all, sometimes sang it pointedly, funk-daffied, and putting on absolutely no East Coast pretense. Classic. Track listing, notes. Funky Ride is sung by Society of Soul. Flim Flam contains a sample of Ghetto Headhunter by P.A. Personnel. Credits are adapted from the album's liner notes. Charts, see also, Atlanta Hip Hop, Golden Age Hip Hop, references. Bibliography, Nathan. Horde, Christian, eds. The New Rolling Stone Album Guide. Simon & Schuster. ISBN A0-7432-0169-8. Buckley, Peter, ed. The Rough Guide to Rock. Rough Guides. ISBN A1-84353-105-4. Timo. Gangster Rap. The Move from Inner City Slums to Profitable Entertainment. Grim Verlag. ISBN A3-640-77004-8. Hess, Mickey, ed. Icons of Hip Hop, an Encyclopedia of the Movement, Music, and Culture. ABC Clio. ISBN A0-313-33903-1. Jenkins, Sacker. Wilson, Elliot. Jenkins, Sacker, ed. Ego Trips Book of Rap Lists. Macmillan. ISBN A0-312-24298-0. Joyner, David Lee. American Popular Music. McGraw-Hill Higher Education. ISBN A0-07-352,657-6. Larkin, Colin, ed. The Encyclopedia of Popular Music. Indexes, Volume 10. Oxford University Press. ISBN A0-19-531373-9. Mack, Jim. Hip Hop. Heinemann Raintree Library. ISBN A1-4109-3393-8. Nixon, Chris. Hey Ya! The Unauthorized Biography of OutKast. Macmillan. ISBN A0-312-33735-3. Simmons, Russell. Morrow, Chris. Dew. 12 Laws to Access the Power in You to Achieve Happiness and Success. Penguin Group. ISBN A1-59240-368-9. Strong, Martin Charles. The Great Rock Discography. Canongate US. ISBN A1-84195-615-5. Wang, Oliver, ed. Classic Material, The Hip Hop Album Guide. ECW Press. ISBN A1-55022-561-8. Westhoff, Ben. Dirty South, OutKast, Lil Wayne, Soulja Boy, and the Southern Rappers Who Reinvented Hip Hop. Chicago Review Press. ISBN A1-56976-606-1. External links, Southernplayalisticadillacmuzik at Discogs.